The next modifier is offset path. As I told before, in order to add a modifier to the scene, we should add a shape. Open shape layer. In contents parameter of this layer, there is an add, and by clicking on this button, you can add any modifier you want. I add offset path modifier to the shape. Open offset path modifier. Open offset path modifier. The first parameter is amount, with which you can expand or abbreviate the shape. It's somehow like scale or size, but there's some difference that I will explain you. The first difference is that in order to scale down or scale up the star, you should go to polystar and polystar path. You won't see such parameter for size. And you can just do that in transform parameter, which has some problems that the size of the stroke will increase simultaneously, which is not interesting at all. Go back to offset path modifier. You can easily do this with amount. You can scale up or down your star, although your stroke size won't change. The next parameter is line join, that as its name implies, it changes the corners of the shape. Now it is set on miter join, which makes the corners sharp. If you change it to round, corners will change into round. And bevel adds bevel to the corners. I set it on miter join again. The next parameter is miter limit. It is used to define the sharp area of the corners. For example, here the angle of this part of the star is this. But if we open polystar and increase the angle of these corners in inner radius, you see the shape is now like bevel. Let me increase miter limit. You see, I increased the sharp area of the corners because I want its corners to be sharp in larger radius. I reset it. The next parameter is copy. Using this parameter, you can have several copies of your shape. I set it on 5. As you see, 5 copies are out of the main shape. But if you want to create the copies inside the main shape, you should change the amount to a minus value. 5 copies are too much. I set it on 3. I set it on 2. When amount is set on a minus value, the copies will be created inside the main shape, and if the amount is positive, copies will be created outside it. Copy offset is also used to offsetting the copies like this. Now we have introduced offset path modifier briefly. Let's go to our example. One of the perfect usages of this modifier is for this kind of thing that you can have such a stroke around the shape. We want to create such a stroke for this notification. So I open shape layer, contents. I delete the group of this stroke since I want to create it again. To do this, I use this rectangle. Let me disable this to understand better. I use this shape to create the stroke I mentioned. So I duplicate this layer and move it down. You might think that you can do this by just scaling, but that is not true. I hide this layer. I select this shape. I reveal this layer. I press Ctrl T. I want to scale it. As you see, when I scale it, that is not interesting enough. By moving it, we can't create it easily as well. We should try a lot to make the space between the shape and a stroke the same everywhere. It's so hard, and it's better for you to use offset path modifier. So I press Ctrl Z. I return to the first mode. I reveal these ones. This is the main shape, and this one is the shape that we want to create a stroke from. I press Ctrl G to move it to a group. I open the group. Add offset path modifier to it. Increase the amount to have some space. As you see, the space all around the shape is the same, and we have done that without any problems. Here you can decide whether to be sharp, set on miter, or you want it to be smooth. So set it on round. I want it to be sharp. Then open rectangle. I don't want the feel of the second stroke, so I delete it. Open a stroke. I click on dash to turn the stroke into dashes. I click again and change its settings. I press it again to make it irregular. Then in line cap parameter, select round cap to have rounded stroke corners. To rotate the stroke continuously, Alt and left click on stopwatch of the offset parameter. Here type time 100. I think the diameter of the stroke is a bit much, so go to stroke width and set it to 8. I want to reverse its rotation. I change 100 to -100. So here is the animation of the stroke. The next example is creating such thing. So open shape, contents, and delete this wave since we want to remake it. Also delete offset path, so the shape is inside a group. Duplicate this group. Remove the animation created for the scale. After removing its animation, click on Contents and add Offset Path modifier to it. Move it beneath Group 2. I hide this layer to better know what is going on. By increasing the amount of the offset path, all shapes that are inside the group will be offset separately. We don't want this. We want all of them to be recognized as a single shape. So, open Group and add Merge Path modifier to it. Immediately after adding it, Offset Path recognized all of that as a single shape and offsets all shapes as one shape. Now, inside the group layer, we don't need fill anymore, so I disable it. Then I enable Group 1. From this point, the offset path has covered around the shape. I start animating it. Create a keyframe for it. Go to second one. Increase its amount. This much. Then create a keyframe for a stroke width. Finally, set it on 0. Press U to see the keyframes. Then the sun comes here, and from here on, it gets larger. In order to coordinate the animation of the wave with the sun and make it loop and continuous, drag these two keyframes forward to have the same duration for the animation of the wave and sun. And create loop out expression for these two as well. Press Ctrl C and paste it here. Let's have a look. It's fine.